This time on Film Ranker, we are looking at Danny Boyle. The British filmmaker has made 13 movies crossing into just about every genre you can think of, and by and large, he's as safe a bet as there is. Even his films that split the critics have some obvious bright spots. Also, I once saw him on the train reading The Postman Always Rings Twice, but enough about me, let's get ranking. Number 13, A Life Less Ordinary. This is the sort of misfire that can only come from a talented director. The cast is great, the soundtrack is pure 90s gold, there are oodles of quirky characters, all the pieces are in place, but Boyle just gets a bit overzealous and tries to do too much with them. It starts to feel a little bit like a kid just smashing toys together. A lot is happening, but not to very much effect. Number 12, The Beach. This might be Boyle's most divisive film. The Beach certainly has its fans who will rightfully commend the cinematography and Boyle's risk-taking with some of the more stylized scenes, aka that weird video game part, but most were underwhelmed by the overwrought story of an American traveler who keeps making stupid choices. Leonardo DiCaprio was up for a Razzie Award for Worst Actor for his part in this, which tells you most of what you need to know. Number 11, Trance. This 2013 film kind of flew under the radar, even though it came out after two of Boyle's most critically acclaimed hits. It's a bit of a return to his EDM-fueled roots, as well as his take on a high-concept heist movie a la Memento or Inception. The idea is fine, the cast is great, but the follow-through never quite lands. It's somehow both undercooked and overcooked at the same time. A great find for late-night Netflixing, but a bit more of a direct-to-video feel. Number 10, Yesterday. Danny Boyle's one of the few directors that is a true chameleon, hopping from genre to genre with each film, and this cute little musical is an excellent example of that. Some folks will make fun of the silly premise, what if the world was the same except without the Beatles, but it is still a pretty fitting way to pay homage to the lads from Liverpool and a good rags to riches story about the one man that remembers them. It's a must-see for Beatles fans, and honestly, if you don't like the Beatles, I don't really know what to say to you anyway. Number 9, Shallow Grave. Boyle's first film is one of those great breakout indie films that seem to happen a lot in the 90s. It's a tight, low-budget thriller that really showed off the director's obvious talent and paved the way for bigger things to come. It helps that it has a then little-known Ewan McGregor, as well as Christopher Eccleston and Kerry Fox heading up the small cast, and it helps even more that the script is so good. Number 8, Trainspotting 2. The expectations for this sequel after a 20-year wait were sky high, but it mostly lived up to the hype. If anything, the wait helped. Boyle smartly checked back in on his characters in a way that realistically felt like 20 years later. The movie's mostly older and wiser, even if not all of the characters are. Things that were exciting in the 90s feel a little bit sad, but in a calculated way that really works. Number 7, Millions. This is perhaps Danny Boyle's most underrated film. Millions is an adorable story about two brothers dealing with the loss of their mother and a big bag of money that they find during a fictional switchover from pounds to euros. It's a kind of a heartwarming Christmas movie, but without anything to do with Christmas. And even though it's a bit of a tearjerker, it does manage to stay on the smart side of sappy, and I cannot overstate the adorableness. Number 6, Steve Jobs. Your enjoyment of Steve Jobs will be intrinsically linked to your enjoyment of Aaron Sorkin's writing. Sorkin is front and center here in this smart-talking movie, told in several long conversations before various key product launches. Boyle smartly stays out of the way of both Sorkin and Michael Fassbender's fantastic lead performance, keeping things slick and quietly in motion even when the physical action is mostly static. Number 5, Sunshine. Boyle, Garland, and Murphy's second dystopian sci-fi horror collaboration is a great one. It looks terrific. Boyle delivers some great sci-fi shots, both internal and external, using the sun and light and darkness in some terrifying ways. The sun, monster / other captain is a little bit of a weak point, but everyone in the original crew is great, and that one Chris Evans scene in the fuel cell tank is some of the best work of his career. Number 4. 127 Hours, another movie that takes place in a small location, a very small location, but never loses momentum. Franco goes way over and above as the lead here, reportedly shooting very long days and going through quite a bit of physical pain of his own. It's basically a one-man show, all leading up to the big inevitable climax, and Boyle puts on a clinic in slowly building both the character and the momentum. Number 3, Slumdog Millionaire. This one's been a little bit of a victim of its own success, but put aside whether or not it was Best Picture worthy and take it on its own merit, it's a pretty good film. Dev Patel proves here that he is a star. The story moves at a sprint, and even if the framing device is a little bit forced and maybe already dated, the narrative it pushes forward stays interesting from start to finish. There is a reason that this movie became a cultural phenomenon. Number 2, 28 Days Later. 28 Days Later is one of my favorite films of all time, and a real shot in the arm for the modern zombie genre. Those opening shots of empty London are iconic, as are the controversial fast zombie / virus sufferers. It follows a perfect 3-act structure, making us care about everyone that gets picked up along the way. Even if you aren't into the genre, this movie is well worth watching, especially for that incredible scene where Jim finally snaps. Number 1, Trainspotting. While 28 Days Later might be my personal fave, Trainspotting has got to be the top of the list. Boyle's second film gets everything right. It looked and moved and sounded exactly the way we wanted a film to look and move and sound, even if we didn't know it yet. It captures the other side of 1996 in a can, in the same way that A Clockwork Orange was the perfect dystopian vision of 1971. The characters feel real, the world's cool but sad, and the soundtrack was glued to our Discman and early iPods. This is the movie that gave Danny Boyle a blank check, and it's the movie everything else since is measured against. And that is it. I know I've got some of these lower than you might like, but that is the problem when a director has so many great films. Still, let me know which ones you think deserve more credit, and please like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you all next time.